So we just fought for the family, made sure they got their pricing. When they left the funeral home, they called us and they were very, very thankful that we were able to be there for them and to walk them through that process.
Roach, Senior Life Insurance Company, and we are all fired up. This is episode 2 of our podcast. We have a very special guest in the building, and I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Catherine Connor, Director of Legacy Assurance, and I am super excited to be here today.
Super fired up.
Super fired up.
Now, Legacy Assurance is a very cool thing because Legacy Assurance partners with agents from Senior Life so they can become advocates for Legacy. So, what is your title exactly with Legacy Assurance?
Director of Legacy Assurance.
And how long have you been doing that?
About 4 years now.
So, what is it about Legacy? What do you like the most about working there?
My team, helping families, talking to funeral homes, helping agents, our representatives, to be able to go out there every day and help families.
Well, you mentioned helping families. You mentioned your team. What exactly, people have seen it on different pieces, different periodicals. What exactly is the WISH team? What does that stand for, and what does that mean exactly?
The WISH team, it stands for Where Individuals Seek Help. So what that is we do negotiations for families at the time of need to help them get the best price possible for their funeral services. So what we do is when we get that first call, we go ahead and contact the funeral homes in the family's area. We negotiate the cost between funeral homes. We inform the family. When the family calls us again, we'll go ahead and get the purchase done for the funeral merchandise, such as the casket, vault, and headstone. We'll ship out the casket and the vault, have it there within 24 hours, and then that's pretty much it.
And you guys also carry discounted items too, right?
Yes, that's what it is. Our funeral merchandise is at a discounted rate, and once they become a member, it's also at a locked-in price.
So if I become a member of Legacy Assurance through my advocate, who is also a Senior Life agent, if I become a member and, I'm not going to put my age out there, but let's just say I live a very long time. So if I don't pass away for 40 years, I get it at the same price.
Yes.
And that's right now, it's $1,500 for the casket.
That's correct.
I can imagine, with that being the case, that you may not be as well received or well liked by funeral directors?
No, we are not.
Because of the discounted rate and how much you help families. So how do you guys kind of combat that? How do you deal with that from people who may be opposed to such a great service?
Well, funeral homes do not like us. That is the case. Right now, their caskets probably run from $3,000 to $5,000, and that's today. Our caskets are $1,500 and will always be $1,500 as long as you're a member. Starting today, that's what our prices are. So with that being said, what we do is we tell the funeral homes, legally, you have to accept this merchandise. They have to accept third-party merchandise from a third-party company, and that's what Legacy Assurance is. So they have to accept it, or they'll be fined or lose their license.
What now, Kat? I've known you for quite a long time. I've known you for about 10 years now. And when I met you, you were probably in middle school, maybe. Yes. So being a little bit younger, and I will just go ahead and put your personal business out there. You were a tad bit shy,
yes,
maybe for a little while there. You've definitely opened up and blossomed a lot more since then. But was that difficult for you whenever you were first coming on board? I know that you weren't in charge of Legacy just yet, but just coming on board, was that transition difficult for you?
It was tough, but you got to do what you got to do. And I come in here every day knowing that I'm in charge now of Legacy Assurance and I have to be the leader. So if I'm shy, it happens. But
right.
But when I'm here at Legacy Assurance, I make sure I take charge and do what I need to do to get the job done.
Was that difficult at all, though? Because I'm sure very early on, there was going to be funeral homes and people that oppose the product and the service. Was that difficult for you in the beginning?
I was very nervous talking to funeral homes at the beginning, but now it's just something I do on a daily basis. So I've gotten pretty good at it.
So it's just basically about your mindset.
Yep, exactly.
Mindset is everything.
Yeah, mindset is everything.
I want to go ahead and just put out, you're one of my favorite people to work with. I think that you're just an incredible person. And I'm just so happy that you're able to get that leadership role. And from my position, just to watch how well you've done and how much you've grown has really been a pleasure for me. So I just want to put that out there.
Oh, thanks, Thomas.
We were talking earlier about a particular situation where you helped a family, and if you could kind of fill me in a little bit, it was something about how three sisters had called, and I mean that's three people calling about their mother that had passed away or something. So what happened with that?
So three sisters called in, and we went to funeral homes, or we called funeral homes and negotiated the costs between 3 or 4 funeral homes, and we found one that was a good price. And then when the family got to the funeral home tried to say that they never spoke to us.
Right.
Well, that just didn't happen. I mean, we did speak to them. The lady even said, "Oh, I would remember your accent." Oh, come on. And then we had the nerve to say, "Well, what was your name again?"
Right.
And we said, "Yeah, we spoke to you. We know for a fact we spoke to you."
Right.
And we said, "Are you the only one there that's by that name?" And she said, "Yeah, we know for a fact we spoke with you." So we just fought for the family, made sure they got their pricing. When they left the funeral home, they called us, and they were very, very thankful that we were able to be there for them and to walk them through that process.
Definitely. Now, whenever senior life agents partner with Legacy Assurance and become advocates, it also helps them in a great deal. Things like persistency for them can go up. What are some of the advantages for somebody to become an advocate for Legacy?
Yeah, it's a great sales tool. It helps you sell the products. Who wouldn't want this? I mean, this is locking in the price of your funeral merchandise. You're talking about life insurance, but you also have to think about, okay, it's final expense. You have those things that you have to take care of at that time of need. So here is the Legacy Assurance. Here's your funeral merchandise. So it's a great sales tool. Increased persistency, which is very important for life insurance agents. You want to make sure your business stays on the books. So yeah, great sales tool and increase in persistency.
Now, how do you balance, because this is something that would be difficult for me maybe, being when you came on board, very soft-spoken, very shy, and then dealing with those that oppose the product and the service, but at the same time, like you're very, very almost like soft and nurturing with customers that are members of Legacy. A personal story of mine, I lost my grandmother this year. She actually passed away Mother's Day weekend, and we needed to get a casket. She had her life insurance figured out for years. She had a lot of her final arrangements figured out. But the funeral home, it was a little pricey. And my mother and my aunt actually spoke with you, and you treated them just so amazing. It just really brought them at ease. My mother being the executive of my grandmother's estate, she had to get everything rolling, get everything together. And you really helped her, and you did it in such a soft way. How are you able to do that? How can you go from being a pit bull with the people trying to take advantage of families, and then when you're helping families, be so soft? How are you able to go back and forth like that?
Well, because I'm being a pit bull with somebody else that's being a pit bull. So they're being a pit bull, I have to be a pit bull. The family, they're having a hard time. So I'm going to make sure that I am soft-spoken,
right? That
I speak to them I talk to them with respect, and make sure that they're taken care of. So it's a balance. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm going to be a pit bull with someone that's a pit bull. So,
so it's just a reaction more than anything, which is kind of great to watch because, knowing you and you being so soft-spoken, to see you have to be reactive like that is really interesting and on the outside kind of fun. I know it's not fun in the moment, but you do a great job and a great service, and it's just really cool to see. Just kind of moving forward and just kind of thinking like, I've used Legacy before. I know that Senior Life's Vice President of Financial Compliance, Eric Mitchell, used Legacy this year whenever I believe his grandfather had passed away. Who are some other people, some other agents with Senior Life or employees that may have used Legacy?
Zach Phillips, Vice President of Operations, has used it for his grandfather and grandmother. Joey Faircloth has used it, which is an agent, an RVP with us. Billy Pilcher has used it. He's an RVP. There's been a few others. Aileen Griffin, she's in recruiting now. She's used it. So
and I think that's really a true testament to the product and the services. Like for myself to use it for my grandmother, it's high quality merchandise. It's super legit, and to have people, the advocates, to have people that work at Senior Life and the home office staff to use the product, I think is really just a true testament to the high quality of it and to the great job that you guys do. So Legacy Assurance is like really grown. How many people work with the company now?
There's 4 of us.
Okay. And how do you, as a leader, kind of mold them and show them? I mean, because you're young, you're the one in charge. What are some of the things you do to help them kind of grow and help them help families and help them help advocates?
Well, I am young, like you said, so I'm learning along the way. But I've learned a lot from my father. He actually works for Senior Life, so he's been in the business for over 24 years now. And I learned a lot of things from him and how to treat people and how to lead people. So when they have a problem, we talk about it. If they get upset because of a claim, a family called in and they were upset, they were crying, we are very sensitive to those kind of things.
Definitely.
So we make sure that we address that and we talk about it and things like that. But I've learned a lot from my father, and he's led me through a lot of things. So I am taking that and leading them.
So shouts out to Mitch Connor, Vice President at Senior Life. What's that like? Because, I mean, as much as Legacy works with Senior Life and Senior Life's agents, what's that like interacting with your father on a professional level?
It's difficult sometimes, but I enjoy it because I've known most of my life that this is something that I've wanted to do. I've wanted to work with him.
Okay.
He retired and went into full-time ministry, and I was so upset because he left Senior Life, and that was something I wanted to do.
Okay.
But I still had the opportunity, so now he's back, and now we're working together.
There it is. It is. Shouts out to Mitch Connor, one of the most stand-up individuals you will ever meet.
Yes.
A very strong-minded and motivated man, and just somebody that inspires me. I'm very blessed to work with him on the Senior Life side, every day. So definitely shouts out to him. What does Mitch Connor mean to you as far as your professional growth?
So what he means to me as my professional growth is he is my father, so he's going to give me the best advice he can. So it's easy to be able to just go to him and ask anything I need to ask because he is my father, and he helps me become a better leader. So he means the world to me. Sorry.
That's all right.
Hey, Thomas. Can't talk about my daddy like that. Give me just a second.
Yeah.
All right. I'm good. Ready?
All right. Let's move on. Let's ask another question.
Yeah. Because you bring up Mitch and I get all emotional.
Right. Was it difficult growing up with a preacher for a daddy?
Oh, yes.
Because
very difficult.
For those that don't know, Mitch was an agent and an RVP with Senior Life for many, many years. He was trained by Ron when Ron was still a teenager, I believe, and it was actually around Christmas time when he was trained. Worked in the business, was one of the top performing RVPs with the company for many, many years. And then he got called by God to be a preacher, and he did that for quite some time. And then God actually led him back to Senior Life. So what's that like growing up? You got a preacher for a father. I mean, I assume even when he wasn't preaching, he's still a very religious man. So what's that like in the household? How are you able to cut up? Did Kat ever sneak out of the house when she was in high school, or?
No, never sneak out of the house.
No.
But it's hard being a preacher's kid, but it is what it is. I mean, it's what the Lord called him to be. So I'm going to support him any way I can when it comes to that. But no sneaking out of the house.
At least she's not going to admit it on a podcast. I think the cool thing about Mitch is, he has a very, I want to say almost friendly approach. He approaches when he talks to you, you can tell that he really cares whenever he is interacting with you. And that's something that I think that for you is something you have inherited. And I think a lot of traits that I've seen with Mitch by knowing him and knowing you for the last 10 years, I feel like you've absorbed a lot of those really good traits. Something that you had touched on earlier that was really kind of had me thinking, how do you handle for yourself and as a leader for that company? I can imagine talking to families would probably have a pretty strong emotional toll on somebody. Mm-hmm. Me personally, that's one of the harder things about this industry is because we, especially over here at Senior Life, it's final expense. Final expense is your final expense. So the idea of passing away, the idea of death, those kinds of things are very real and are discussed on a very regular basis. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to help families at the hardest time. Whenever agents are selling Senior Life's product, they are talking about what's going to happen ultimately in the future. You guys at Legacy are dealing with that same thing as it's happening. How do you handle the emotional toll for yourself and for your team when that happens?
Well, we just know that we're helping families. That's what we're here to do. So if someone's upset or the family is having a hard time, I just keep in the back of my mind that we're helping them. We're helping them during this difficult time. Most people that we speak with do not have the funds to pay for their funerals.
Right.
So, but thank God they do have life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but you got to think funerals are very expensive. So then that's where we come into play. And we do the negotiations, and we know that we're helping these families save $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, and that's great. That means a lot to somebody. So I just know that I'm helping families, and that helps me with my emotions when it comes to that.
Is that the main part that you'd say you might like about your career is how much you get to help people?
Yes.
Did you realize that whenever you first came into Legacy, how many lives you would touch and how many people you'd be able to help?
No, I didn't realize it, but I see it now.
Was it something that, slowly you began to realize, or did it all of a sudden hit you one day like, wow, like I just helped 4 people today before I left, like for the day? Or, how did that come about? Was it a slow thing, or was it just like all of a sudden?
Well, it was kind of like a slow thing. I mean, like you said earlier, Legacy is young. So right when you get started, people aren't going to start passing away.
Right.
So it takes a little bit of time for that to come. And this year, we're really seeing a lot of people passing away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's taken a little bit of time, but this year I would say it probably hit me this year that, wow, we're helping a lot of people. We're helping the families. We're helping everybody. So
with your career with Legacy Assurance, you are able to help a lot of families. Anybody that works in any career, there's hobbies, there's times to decompress. I'm a music fanatic, so I go to concerts and listen and buy music. What are some things that you do on your off time, your weekend time, whenever you're not Kat the Legacy representative, but just Kat Connor on the weekends?
My favorite thing to do is to go camping.
Okay.
During the summer, we go camping almost every weekend. Go to the lake, have a good time on the boat, the jet ski, and I also have a Jeep, so I like to ride around with the top off.
Let your hair fly in the wind a little bit.
Exactly.
Definitely. So we talk about emotional tolls and how that can weigh on somebody. Another person I had recommended for Legacy, a good friend of mine named Brian, who I went to high school with, his son passed away. His son went to the local high school here and got in a car accident. He was 17, maybe 18 years old. And his family was really stuck, and you guys helped him out a great deal. I attended the funeral. The casket looked beautiful. Does that ever get hard? Because, I mean, there is the reality that, younger people pass away. How do you deal with that emotionally? How do you help the family in that instance? And what do you do personally to try to get through that moment?
Yeah, it's hard. We get calls all the time about parents that they have children and then they don't make it past the newborn stage, I guess you could say.
Right.
So that is very difficult. But most funeral homes that we've spoken to, when we have those type situations, they'll actually either do it for free.
Oh, wow.
Or do it for a low amount, $200, $300.
Right.
Them just purchasing a casket from the funeral home or something like that.
Right.
So it is hard to hear those kind of stories or to help families like that. But with that being said, us calling the funeral home and being able to get this family, young couples that are just had a baby but did not make it, and get it pretty much for free and they don't have any worries, it is a good thing.
So talking about, just with helping families, you've recently kind of increased Legacy's community outreach in a way. Kind of explain, I guess, a natural disaster that happened pretty locally. You guys were able to help. What was the situation and how were you guys able to help?
So, yeah, we had tornadoes come through locally, and we were able to help families in that area with donating caskets. We had a husband and wife that had passed away together in their home, and we were able to donate caskets to that family to help them. So that's a big deal when it comes to not just one funeral, but 2 funerals.
Yeah.
So we were able to do that, donate 2 caskets to a family.
So that basically wraps up everything. Episode 2 of the All Fired Up podcast with Catherine Connor from Legacy Assurance. Is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
I enjoy working for Legacy Assurance, and I'm excited for the future, and I see a lot of bright things coming. So to our advocates, keep up the hard work, and thank you for all you do for us.
Definitely. One of my favorite people in the world, one of my favorite people to work with, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Catherine Connor.